The cost of living in Mexico has increased like crazy. So in this video, we're going to compare the cost of living in Mexico to the cost of living in the United States. And since I know the most about the city I'm living in, we're comparing Queretaro in Mexico. It's a city right in the middle of the country. It's actually one of the most expensive cities in the country versus Phoenix, Arizona, because that's a city I was living in right before moving to Mexico. So it's the one that I know the most about. So Phoenix is like a mid-range city in terms of the cost of living in the United States, whereas Querétaro is one of the most expensive. The first topic we're going to cover is healthcare, and first up is insurance. So it's me and my wife. I'm a healthy 36-year-old, and she's a healthy 33-year-old. My insurance here in Querétaro is $92 a month, and hers is $97 a month for a total of $189. And then in Phoenix, I got a quote today to see how much a comparable health insurance plan would be as compared to what we have here in Querétaro, and I could not believe the cost of this. Now, there were cheaper options that started around $1,000 or $1,100 a month. Now, this is for the couple. This is for both of us. However, to get a comparable plan, it was going to be $1,590 a month. And that doesn't even include dental. But there was the option to add dental for another $47 a month. $1,590 a month for the two of us. That's like $19,000 a year. And the truth is that this insurance isn't even that great. Comparing it to the coverage we have here, this is quite a bit worse. But you know what? This was the best one they offered. This is the best coverage they offered. Now, both of these health insurance plans have the option to add dental, but neither one of them includes dental. So next, a dental cleaning. In Phoenix, Arizona, we're looking at about $150 per cleaning. Now, of course, prices will vary, and you may say, "Oh, I live in Phoenix and I can get one for $70," or "I live in Phoenix and my dentist charges $200." Yes, prices will vary, and they vary here as well. So some are more expensive, some are cheaper. Here in Querétaro, you're looking at about $35 for a dental cleaning. And now let's say you have a cavity that you need to get filled. How much is that going to cost? Well, it's going to depend on what size the cavity is, how many surfaces of the tooth that it touches. But in the US, you might be looking at about $200. Whereas here in Querétaro, we are looking at about $40. And next, if you need a crown, in Phoenix, you're looking at about $1,250. Whereas here, you're looking at about $320. I've said before on this channel that your average cost of things in Mexico might be about 1/3 of what they cost in Phoenix, Arizona, but for healthcare stuff, it's usually significantly cheaper than that. And if you have to go see a specialist in the US, according to this insurance that I got a quote on, the copay for the specialist was $45. Now, if you don't have insurance and you want to go see a specialist, maybe you're looking at $500. And here in Querétaro, your average specialist might cost about $45 to $50, and you're going to be paying this each time until you reach your deductible. Whereas in the US, you're going to be paying that every single time, even if you've already reached your deductible. And by the way, here in Querétaro, this is the price whether you have insurance or not. And the prices here do vary a little bit. Like, you might have some specialists that are on the very lowest end, like $35, and then they could also be upwards of $70, but most of them are in the $45 to $50 range. And next is the cost of an ambulance with advanced life support. It does depend on how far you're going, like that's going to change the cost of it, but in Phoenix, you might be looking at about $1,500 for that ambulance ride. Whereas here in Querétaro, that same ambulance ride with advanced life support is going to be about $300. So as you can see, the cost for your average healthcare service here in Mexico or here in Querétaro might be about 1/5 of what it's going to cost you in the US. And insurance is even less than that, at least for us. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the cost for various things related to having a vehicle. And in our case, our vehicle is fully paid for, so we don't have a monthly payment, and it is not under warranty. So first up is the price of gas. The average price of a gallon of gas in Phoenix, Arizona today is $3.16, whereas here in Queretaro, it's $4.40. This is one of the few things that's actually more expensive here in Mexico. But a little while back in the US, gas prices went way up, but here in Mexico, they stayed about the same. They've been in approximately the $4 per gallon range during the 6 years I've been in Mexico. And the reason for that is because Mexico is not subject to the international prices of oil. The government has a monopoly on oil here, and it's one of their major revenue sources. So gasoline typically remains at about the same price, regardless of whether oil prices go up or down. Today, in preparation for this video, I got a car insurance quote from Geico, and that was going to be $118 a month for my car. And in Mexico, this car is $66 a month. So the insurance costs are about double in the US for this particular car. Next is car washes. Here in Mexico, every car wash is full service, so they hand wash and detail the cars. Now, in Phoenix, if you want a hand detail, you're looking at $100 or more plus tip. Whereas here in Querétaro, that service for the basic service that's hand detail inside and out is $9, and that already includes the tip. But the truth is, since this is so expensive in the US, when I was living there, I almost never did that. And what I would do instead, I would go to one of those car washes that you would like drive through that machine that would do it automatically for you. And then they had free vacuums that customers could use. And that was about $10. So the car washes are about the same price. However, here in Mexico, you get a much better service for that price. And if you want the same service, well, then you're looking at 10 times the cost or more. And now let's talk about upkeep. So this is going to be service appointments. This is going to be oil changes. This is going to be replacing the tires or fixing anything that goes wrong. And for our car, it has been $167 a month here. But that's only because the labor is so cheap. Now, if we were fixing our car in the US and had to replace everything that has gone wrong and fix everything that has gone wrong, we're looking at like $500 a month for that in Phoenix. By the way, if you're liking this video, please click that like button because it helps out a lot. By the way, for all these costs, I spent a few hours researching to see how much all of these things cost today in Phoenix in 2024. Now, like always, some of these may be different than your experience, and I'm sure they will be different. But anyway, this is the pricing to the best of my knowledge. Next is registration for the car. In Arizona, for our car, we're looking at $27 a month, whereas here in Querétaro, it's approximately $4 a month. So now let's talk about some expenses for the home. First is gigabit internet. So that's 1,000 megabits per second. Here in Querétaro, we pay $82 a month. And in Phoenix, it was going to be $70 plus tax and fees. So after taxes and fees, you're looking at pretty much the same price for gigabit internet. But let's say instead of 1,000 megabits per second, you were okay with 200. Well then, in the US, in Phoenix, you're still paying about $50 plus taxes and fees. Whereas here in Querétaro, your internet costs drop a lot, and you're looking at more like $25, including all taxes and fees. And next is electricity. From what I looked up today, the average electric bill in Phoenix, Arizona is $189 a month. And we probably live in a pretty similar house as to what is the average house in Phoenix, Arizona. And our electric bill here is about $65 a month. So about 1/3 the cost for electric. Something that's used a lot here that isn't used much in the US is propane. In the US, you're pretty much only going to get that if you have a propane grill. However, we use that for our water heater, we use that for our stove. So all of the houses are going to have some kind of propane bill. And for us, that comes out to about $52 a month. during those months where we're cooking at home a lot. And it's also worth noting that we have 2 water heaters in our house. Now, in our last house, this was probably more like $25 a month. Oh, and on the point of electricity, it can be a whole lot less than this here in Mexico. We were just at somebody else's house who had a house a little bit smaller than ours, and their monthly electric bill was like $3. Well, it was a 2-month bill, and the 2-month bill was about $6, or maybe it was $7 for the 2 months. So it could be a lot cheaper than that if you don't use very much electricity. Because if you don't use a lot of electricity, your electricity costs are highly subsidized. But as you get into the higher tiers using more and more electricity, your per kilowatt hour price increases dramatically. And now on the topic of water, I read that the average water bill in Phoenix is $40, whereas our water bill is about $35 a month. And next is household goods. This is actually one thing that costs about the same. So whether you need to buy some cleaning supplies or whether you need to buy a new mop or a new hose for the garden or whatever, things like that cost about the same in Mexico as they do in the US. And we estimate our cost at about $80 a month. Here in Queretaro, we get drinking water in 5-gallon jugs delivered to our house every week. And the cost per month for that comes out to about $17. And keep in mind, this is with 2 adults and 3 dogs living here. The truth is that most people living in Phoenix probably aren't going to have a drinking water delivery service, but if you did want it, you're looking at about $50 a month. I just mentioned that we have 3 dogs, and one of those is a 14-year-old husky, so she has a lot of vet bills, and she's taking lots and lots of supplements and medications that can add up. And here in Mexico, it comes out to about $176 a month. Now, this includes the vet visits for all 3 of the dogs, but probably 80 to 90% of that cost is our one old dog. So that's the price there. Now, if we want to do the same thing in Phoenix, I had a harder time finding prices for these vet services. Like, we give her this treatment every month, this interventional treatment that helps with her joints, and I think that thing runs like $300 per treatment in the US. Here it's something like $35 or $40, but I had a harder time finding a price for this, but we're going to put that as $350 plus for vet visits, vaccinations, and supplements and things like that. And next, for our cell phone bill, for the 2 of us here, it comes out to about $35 a month. And the cheapest option I could find from a major carrier in the US was with T-Mobile, and for the 2 of us, that was going to be $90 a month. Next is clothing. This is another one of those few things that's actually more expensive here, and of course we don't buy clothing every single month, but it's about $75 each or $150 a month, whereas buying the same amount of clothing might cost us $100 a month in the US. And in the US, there's a lot more options to get really cheap clothing. You can go to thrift stores. Those don't really exist here. Well, the few thrift stores that do exist aren't cheap like they are in the US. The stuff is still fairly expensive there. And there is ways to buy secondhand, but in general, you're going to be paying more for clothing here than you would in the US. By the way, if you like videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. You can do so for free with the click of a button. We have 3 dogs, 2 of which are huskies, so there's some grooming that needs to be done. And here in Querétaro, it's about $20 to $25, including tax and tip for the huskies. The other smaller dog is quite a bit cheaper than that. Now, if you want grooming for a husky in Phoenix, after tax and tip, you're probably looking at least $125. So the truth is that this is one of those things that if living in Phoenix, I would do myself just because it's so expensive, but I much prefer to take them to somebody and have a professional do it. So when it comes to various services, usually it's either a bit cheaper or a lot cheaper in Mexico. So Netflix, for the biggest and best package you can get, it's going to be $23, but I think that's plus tax. Whereas here in Mexico, it's $17 for the absolute best one that you can get, but that's including tax. It already includes a 16% tax. And then next, Amazon Prime. So in the US, that's $15 a month plus tax, whereas here, it's $6 a month, including tax. And then a Costco membership. In the US, that's $60 plus tax. Here, it's $29 including tax. So today I looked up the cost to go see a movie, and I just saw that the new Mean Girls movie came out. And for 2 adult tickets, a large popcorn, and a large drink in Phoenix, we're looking at $43, whereas here in Querétaro, it would be $15 for that exact same thing. And here in Mexico, you have the option to go see a movie in Spanish or in English. If you want the English movie, on the board, you look for the one that says SUB next to it. That means it's subtitled. So it's going to be audio in English with subtitles in Spanish. And next is a house cleaning. Here in Querétaro, we pay approximately $29, and that's for a 3-bedroom house. A house cleaning for the same size house in Phoenix, I just got a quote today from a company, and it would be $250, but that's with a monthly discount where they're coming every single month. Now, I'm sure you could get it cheaper if you didn't hire a company and you hired an individual without insurance and without those additional protections, but huge difference in the price of a service like a house cleaning. When we have a special event coming up, Mai likes to go get her nails done, and she gets these artificial nails put on and then gets them painted all pretty. And that service in the US, after tip, is about $70. Whereas here in Querétaro, she pays $23. So next, let's talk about renting. So you're renting a home. The vast majority of the rentals here in Querétaro are single family homes. So that's what I was comparing it to in Phoenix. I'm very familiar with the Querétaro rental market and how much rentals cost in a not so nice neighborhood and a very nice neighborhood and things like that. So what I did to compare the rent prices was I went and searched for homes for rent in Phoenix. And each one that I clicked on, I thought, okay, what would a similar home in a similar neighborhood rent for here in Querétaro? And with almost every single example, it was about 50%. So if you had a home that was $2,000 per month in Phoenix, a similar home here would be $1,000 a month. Next is a men's haircut in a nice barber shop. After tax and tip, what I found was about $38 in Phoenix, whereas here, after tax and tip, I pay about $15 per haircut. Just like in Phoenix, there are also very nice restaurants here. So let's say you want to go to a nice steakhouse and you're going to order 2 8-ounce fillets, 2 sides, 2 cocktails, and 1 dessert. So on a menu that I looked up today at a nice steakhouse in Phoenix, you were looking at $59 each for the fillets, $15 each for the sides, $20 each for the cocktails, and $15 for the dessert. After tax and tip, you're looking at $261 for 2 people to eat out at a nice steakhouse. Now, at a steakhouse of similar quality here in Querétaro, the fillets would be $28, the sides would be $6, the drinks $12, and the dessert $12, for a total of $119 after tax and tip. And you might notice that it doesn't increase as much here in Mexico because with these prices, all these prices already include a 16% sales tax, whereas in the US, these prices are listed before tax. And also, the standard tip in the US is more like 18 or 20%, whereas here in Mexico, 15% is considered a very good tip. One thing I haven't talked about are groceries. So if you go to a grocery store in the US or Mexico and you shop around the outside of the store, well then here in Mexico, you're going to be paying quite a bit less than in the United States for more things. So when I'm talking the outside of the store, I'm talking about meats, I'm talking about vegetables, things like that. But if you go down the aisles, then you're going to be paying about the same. Now, if you can go shop at a meat market like a carniceria for your meat here in Mexico, your meats will be a lot cheaper. If you can go to a mercado and shop at the local market for your vegetables are going to be a whole heck of a lot cheaper than they are in the US. So even though prices have gone up a lot here in Querétaro, is it still worth it moving from the US? Are your dollars going to go further? As you can see in these examples that I showed you today, yes, in most cases, your dollars are going to go a lot further here in Mexico so you can live a much higher quality of life on the same amount of money. Please subscribe to the channel and next click on this video right here and I will see you over there.